This is the informational webinar for the College of Creative Studies at UCSB, and we are actually coming to you live from that funky little building that you see there. Next slide, please. Savannah?
Yeah, so we're going to just briefly introduce ourselves. My name is Savannah Parison. I'm the Student Affairs Manager at the College of Creative Studies. Some people might think of me as like a lead advisor in that regard as well. So I basically get the pleasure of advising and getting to know all of the students at CCS and how they experience our college and helping them out. And then I get the pleasure of talking with our prospective students as well. So I'm really looking forward to this.
And my name is Gerardo Aldana. I am the Dean of the College of Creative Studies. I'm also a professor of history and archaeology with a specialization in Mayan civilization. So what we want to do today is we want to make sure that you have a few takeaways, points that we're going to emphasize over the next hour. Okay. We want to make sure that you know what the College of Creative Studies is. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about what the experience of being a student here is all about. We're going to make sure that you know what CCS is not, and a few things we need to make clear about that. We'll go on to talk about who should be interested, who really is a good fit for CCS. It's not necessarily for everybody, but those who find their way here absolutely love it. And then what's the process for applying? We'll spend some time talking about that because it is a separate application.
So one of the things that makes CCS unique is sort of its role within UCSB. So UCSB is in and of itself a large top-tier research institution within the University of California system. So it exists within a very big and broad network. But CCS in and of itself is actually a really, really small part of that, and that is by design. So we exist as what feels very much like a small, almost like a liberal arts college. So if some of you are, thinking about applying to a small liberal arts college because you like that sort of feel where your professors know your name, people recognize you in the hallway, that is something that exists within CCS that's very special within the broader context of a research institution. And that comes with all kinds of benefits as well. So you get that kind of personal touch of a small college, but you also get access to the kinds of resources that are really only available at a large research institution. And so we just kind of wanted to give you a sense of scale as well in terms of our place within UCSB, that CCS is that tiny sliver of blue in a much larger range of the College of Letters and Science and the College of Engineering. So there are many, many other students and professors and resources available through the campus as a whole, and CCS students can access many of those benefits and those resources. But the population and the connections and the networking that you do is within a much smaller, more intimate part of that campus. So just to give you a sense of scale, right, the College of Letters and Science has many divisions and many different majors, and the College of Creative Studies has 8 majors, and that's it. There's no extra majors beyond this in terms of, what else there might be. A lot of those other kinds of things that you might be thinking about would be found in the College of Letters and Science or the College of Engineering. So we have 8 majors specifically. We have art, biology, chemistry and biochemistry, computing, mathematics, music composition, physics, and then writing and literature. Our art program, I just like to emphasize, has actually 3 emphases in particular as well. So they have a painting emphasis, a sculpture and spatial studies emphasis, and then they have a book arts emphasis. And book arts is sort of a very unique program in general as well. So those are sort of the tracks that exist within the College of Creative Studies. And each of those majors has their own kind of process and flair and what they're looking for. And so one of the things that you get to know about us is just as a college, there's ways to think about the college as a whole, but then each major also has things to know about it. We won't be getting into the nitty gritty on those, but a lot of that information is available on our website. And we encourage students to get to know that information and ask us questions and be engaged up front. So part of, when we talk about what isn't the college, sometimes what we hear is students might have a perception that it's kind of a build your own major. And that's not true. There definitely are these like specific degrees. You graduate with a major in biology, but what you do in biology might be where that kind of, that build your own major sort of might seem to come from, because our biology students will pursue their passions within a specific part of biology that they've discovered and really become junior colleagues in by the time they graduate. So, yeah. So those are our 8 majors. And then I think, Gerardo, you wanted to speak about the college as a whole.
That's right. So that we're unique in a couple of different ways. We're unique because CCS is very small on this campus. We're unique because we only have these 8 majors that seem to be constrained, but in many ways are portals to the rest of campus. But the other factor that makes CCS really unique is the fact that this campus, UCSB, we don't have a med school. We don't have professional schools. We don't have a very large graduate school. What we do have, though, is an absolutely top-notch, excellent faculty. And what that means is that these faculty are looking for students to work with, and often they will recruit undergraduates. So a really unique experience here, because we have faculty working directly with undergraduates, looking for that opportunity. And CCS makes that possible. So in CCS, we're asking students to actually push themselves. We're not asking you to come here and just kind of look for getting good grades. We want you to become junior colleagues. We want you to start working directly with our faculty from the first. You'll have an advisor as soon as you arrive on campus, and then they will guide you through the courses and the resources available on this campus to pursue the kinds of education, the questions that most excite and interest you.
And so one of the things that we wanted to just kind of briefly highlight as something that's unique to CCS and that our students have access to is, in addition to having access and connections with these advisors and these professors, there's also additional opportunities for them to engage in their own projects and their own research. And so one of the things that Yusuf was talking about was a summer undergraduate fellowship. And these are made possible by the generosity of CCS donors. And oftentimes those are alumni who valued their CCS experience so much that they want to ensure that the current students of CCS have the same abilities and maybe even more than they did to take the time in the summer to pursue their own research projects. And so these are available for students to apply to once while they're at CCS to be able to fund and support them during the summer while they are engaging in their own independent research projects. And it's a really fantastic opportunity for them as young scholars to really experience those things for the first time. There's other opportunities that are available as well, like writing competitions through our writing and literature program. We're also the home of a literary magazine that is basically run and established by our writing and literature students. And so that for them, even organizing that is an incredible opportunity for them in terms of publishing and leadership and going to conferences and talking to authors and hosting events and things like that. And then one of our big events every year is called RocketCon. And the R in RocketCon is for research. And so, and I'm forgetting all the other letters.
Research and Creative Activities Conference.
That's it. It's basically an opportunity for CCS students across the board, it doesn't matter which major they're in, to present their original works. And so some of that comes through in posters and their scientific projects and things like that. Some of that comes through in performances. So our music composition students are planning YouTube premieres this year because we are remote. But all those kinds of different performances and sharing of personal projects is something that really gets annually celebrated and frankly celebrated throughout the year as well, as our students host their work in the gallery or host their senior recitals. You know, our building is always full of students who are sharing their work and sharing their ideas. And it's really a fantastic place to be for that reason.
We have no grades. But that's qualified. And to be honest, Savannah made me put the little asterisk on there because it's not totally true. No grades just means that our classes in CCS aren't designed to set up to say basically, okay, this is what you need to know. Once you master these facts, we're going to give you the grade and you're going to go off and be happy because you achieved a certain set of objectives. Instead, our classes are really about getting you into a subject and learning how to find your own way within it. So this is where we're talking about, we're different from an honors college. We're not just looking for those students who know they can perform and they want to perform. We're looking for students who are actually looking for the opportunity to explore and to push themselves. And that's what CCS is all about. So when we're doing no grades, we're saying grades are arbitrary and they're not really reflective of our values. What we're valuing is the opportunity to engage new knowledge, to engage research, to develop new creative activities. And when you do that, you're finding your own reward. It's coming from your own self-motivation, not because of some letter that somebody might give you. And that's why we're saying, and it's true, you won't get a grade for a CCS class, but you will take classes in letters and science or in the College of Engineering, and there they will have grades. So hence the asterisk.
Thank you, Gerardo, for letting me put that asterisk on, just because it is true. It's, part of the benefit of being at CCS is that you will take classes in the other colleges. And so your major may well require that you earn letter grades in those classes as well so that you can meet prerequisites for more advanced requirements too.
And so hopefully you're now excited and interested in applying to UCSB and to CCS in particular. What we need you to know is that the CCS application is supplemental. It's separate from the UC app. There's a whole lot of idiosyncrasies that go on here, and I'm not the person to explain them. For that, I turn it over to Savannah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we want to walk you through is what to expect when you apply. And I'll emphasize that this application is required. You can't be admitted to CCS without having submitted a CCS application. So when you're applying to UCSB and you're saying you want to be a CCS student, you're not done. Finish your UCSB application by all means, but you have to then go and apply for CCS as well. The good news is there is no charge to do so. There is no financial barrier that prevents you from applying to CCS. So we're not out to collect application fees. We're doing this because there's additional material that we want to see about you as a potential junior colleague. And so each major has instructions about what they would like to see their students submit in their application. And those applications are reviewed by faculty specifically. So it's not me. I don't review applications for majors. It's people who are experts in your field, and it's the professors who will be teaching your classes and the ones who are sitting down with you every quarter to talk about how you're doing. So the people who are reviewing your application are very invested in what brings you to CCS and what it is that you are looking for from the college as well.
And if I could just chime in there, I think you'll probably see in some of the literature around CCS that CCS is a graduate school for undergraduates. And this is one of those ways in which they're really kind of speaking to that experience. In graduate school, you're not processed through a very large kind of system that scores your application and tries to quantify it. In graduate school, your application comes to a group of faculty who assess it because they're looking for somebody to join their community. And that's what we're seeing in CCS. We're saying that our faculty are going to be looking at your application because they want to see how you would fit into our college and how you would become a part of it, how you would flourish here. And that's a very different approach. It's a holistic approach. And it differs significantly from the other kinds of application processes that you'll see elsewhere.
I wanted to add as well, too, that it's not just a one and done, we only take freshmen once and then that's it. So one of the things that is true about CCS is because we're such a small part of the university, there are many students at UCSB who might be a really great fit for CCS who just didn't know that they should come to this presentation. And that's okay. And so we have rolling admissions in many of our programs where our faculty might get to know a student in their classroom. And because that faculty member also wears like a little, secret CCS button on the inside of their lapel, then they recruit the student into CCS. But either way, no matter what, you have to apply to CCS in order to be admitted to these majors. And so those are very carefully reviewed, and they're prepared on your part to be reviewed that way. So we wanted to talk you through a little bit about how that preparation works. These are just some additional things to know about the supplemental application. Like we said, they're reviewed by faculty. Those faculty don't have access to the UC application. So your personal essays that you wrote for entrance into UCSB, information that you might be including or uploading for that application, not involved. We don't log in, we don't look at it, nothing imports over. Everything that we know is what you submitted in the CCS application. And then this is independent of the UCSB freshman selection review that is done by the admissions office. So we communicate with them because we have to. You're being admitted to college, and they need to know where. It's a very separate process. So when you're applying to CCS, you are very much speaking directly to us about that CCS application. And it happens simultaneously with the UCSB freshman review. So when we say priority deadlines for December 28th, that is so that our faculty have time to review applications, make their decisions, and communicate those decisions to the admissions office so that hopefully on decision day, when you find out if you've been admitted to UCSB, you can find out if you've been admitted to CCS. And that's the plan. So really taking the time, this November, December to apply is helpful in making those plans that you'll have some answers in March. And then the guidelines for how to apply to each major are posted on our website. And we just wanted to briefly kind of summarize maybe some of the differences between them. But like I said, please go to our website because each one will have more specific instructions about what they're looking for from these materials. And they don't say those lightly. They really expect you to have read them. So be prepared and take the time to kind of prep some of that in advance. So for our STEM majors, so there's 5 of them up top, they do require a letter of intent. And so that is basically your own personal essay. And there may be instructions. So again, go to our website about why CCS is a good fit for you. And what is it that's going to bring you to CCS. And then letters of recommendation. So from your teachers or other people who might be able to speak to you and speak about you as a potential scholar or researcher, or what is it about you that makes you a good fit here. And then copies of your transcripts. And then optional is work and evidence of talent. And Gerardo, I might let you sort of elaborate on the way to think about that phrase in particular, but there's different ways to demonstrate maybe either prior experience or personal interest that you have worked on independently.
Good. So before I go to the optional question, I wanted to make sure that folks are recognizing that the letter of intent is really an opportunity to talk about what it is that inspires you about this venue. We really want to see what you're thinking about in terms of what you would want to do with CCS. Not, oh, I get priority registration, or oh, I don't have to get grades. We don't want you to elaborate on the privileges of being CCS. We want you to really explore and explain for us what you would do with the opportunities that CCS provides you. That's your opportunity to really kind of shine in your application. You don't have to feel, and this is where we get to the optional question, you don't have to feel as though you already have tons of experience. If you have done, there are high school programs where you can get summer research experience. There are some programs where you can do research as a high school student in your class, depending on what resources you have in your high school. All of that would be useful in as optional work in evidence of talent. But it's not necessary. What we're looking for, again, is, and you'll see it on our website, it's those passionately curious students, those students who they can't sleep at night because they have these questions, and they're just questions about, I need to know why, or I really want to learn this because it's going to help me understand that. It's the passion and the investment in scholarship and the life of the mind. if that sounds like you, that's what we want to see come out in your applications.
Absolutely. And then we're going to briefly touch over to basically kind of our other half, the more typically called creative, but everything is creative at the College of Creative Studies, but art, music, and writing and literature. So they have different sets of requirements for each one, and we'll basically briefly on it. Every major requires a letter of intent. And again, go to the website because they might have very specific instructions for what kinds of questions they want you to answer in your letter of intent. Letters of recommendation, those are optional for arts applicants. So you may have someone who could speak to you as a potential artist. You may not, and so that is optional. It's not required. Writing and literature applicants don't submit letters of recommendation at all this year. And so that's something new. And that is something that is across the board for writing and literature students. So there's not even an option to list a name. It is purely what you submit is what they will review. Copies of transcripts, that's the same either way. So be prepared with those. They don't have to be official. So, you know, if you're in school would charge you $10 for an official transcript, don't worry about it. Get an unofficial one. We just want to see that. And then work and evidence of talent. This is required for these majors. So for STEM majors, there's different levels of access and things like that. But for many of these majors, they want to know that you already have a voice and that you already have some experience with the fundamentals of what makes this particular art your own. And so for art students, they're required to submit portfolios. And they want to see portfolios in the relevant media that you're applying to. So if you're applying for a painting emphasis, they want to see painting. You might have some charcoal, you might have some drawing or ink and things like that, but they do want to see that you have painting skills ready to go. Music scores, they want to know that you're not just a performance musician, but that you have already started to write some music of your own. Recordings are optional, but they do want to see that you have started to create your own music. And then writing samples, same thing. They want to see that you have started creating writing of your own and that you are starting to develop your own unique voice as a writer. Like we were talking about earlier, you will grow as a writer while you're at CCS. So they're not necessarily looking for, you know, your finished identity as a writer to be totally done, but they want to see that you have a personal sort of touch to your work so that they can kind of have a sense of who you are as a writer and as a future writer. So those are sort of the things that are required as extra for those three majors. And that is sort of the bones of our presentation.